Hi, my name is Gary Garzarek, and this is Bridging the Gap. Rogers defines the different adopters as innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and finally laggards. So the innovators are that are described as individuals willing to experience new ideas. They are prepared to cope with failure and serve as the gatekeepers for bringing innovation from the outside world into the system. The early adopters are the ones that work hand in hand with the innovators, but the difference between the two is that they often provide a lot of leadership and gravity to the decision making process. They are ones that are very important to the whole process because they're usually the ones that provide a lot of the background belief system for everybody else. The early majority will be more deliberate in their decision making, but they will be those who don't hold leadership positions within the system formally, but they are going to be those who adapt early, but not but they're not going to be the first ones. They're going to adapt early as it goes. The late majority will be more skeptical. They're going to kind of sit back and wait. They need to know a lot more about the actual innovation and actually the outcomes of it and the economic necessity. Sometimes Rogers and Sahin say that peer pressure does lead them to the adoption of the innovation, but they are the ones that will eventually kind of join the fold. The laggards, on the other hand, tend to take the traditional view. They are much more skeptical and usually and almost always do not have leadership roles within the system. They're going to make absolutely sure that the innovation works before implementing it, and it gotta have they're going to have to see others take on the innovation before they do the attempt. They're also going to tentatively approach it and basically want to feel out every single thing about the system before they commit to it. They need to know both the how and the why as to what's going on with it. The utilization of adopters. Successful innovators believe in their own self efficacy, and this confidence allows for increased risk tolerance when undertaking new practice. Basically, you got to utilize innovators. Utilizing innovators would center on finding a place or skill which they're confident in their skills, and then allowing them to flourish in that location. So, having a group of people that are willing to take a bold step out and be the innovators and be those who are willing to take that step out and take that first leap into whatever is being changed. They're important to build up and to support. So I would support them and make sure that they are understanding that they're doing something that they're comfortable with. The early adopters, because of their unique leadership positions, they will often be those that are kind of the core and the primary focus of the decision making process. They're going to not only lend gravity to the whole situation and to the innovation, but they're also going to provide security for those who are skeptical, but also basically using these people as essentially the core or the cornerstone of what you are innovating. The early majority argues, in Holdsworth and Maids argue that teachers must develop methods that suit individual teaching styles and personal approaches that ultimately must develop a personal process best suited to their ability. In other words, if you don't basically get teachers on board with what they're doing, then it becomes very difficult. So implementing the innovation through innovators and early adopters will kind of show the early majority that they can do it, and then allowing them to have that independence to be able to reinvent and to be able to be exposed to the benefits of the innovation and basically allow them to adapt it. Jesus approaches these groups of people who are open to innovation in a similar way. In nature, he basically they're similar in nature. So he discusses with the disciples about fasting and wineskins. And in Matthew 9:17, he says, "Neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst and the wine will run out and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins and both are preserved." In this comparison, Jesus is stating that innovation must be approached by those who are open to innovation, and pushing something into new and something old and resistant can potentially lead to disaster. So, when using these people, these innovators, early adopters, and the early majority, it's important to find the correct people, find those that are open to and have the ability to be flexible, just like the new wineskin. And if they're not, then the entire thing could be a disaster. On the other end, the late majority and the laggards. The argument of the one size fit all innovations, maybe a thing of the past as educationers become smarter consumers, is very true. By nature, the late majority tend to be more skeptical of innovation. So you basically have to convince them that even though one size fit all is something that is in the past, like innovations can still work for everyone. They have to be shown the innovation is being implemented does not have to be an exact copy of what others are doing. Instead, just like the early majority, it can be adapted to the individual classroom, something that they can be shown that it can be, effective in what they do. Now, laggards are often by nature stuck in the traditional view of classroom approach. Laggards must be exposed to the benefits of the innovation. So one of the ways to do that would be to explore the classes of others who have already adopted that and fully integrated the innovation themselves. Um, Holdsworth and Maines describe it as the classic classroom isolation. Basically, like they say, teachers who never see into other classrooms may believe that students are learning effectively with the tried and true methods. So basically, if they don't know any better, then they're not going to do any better. So by showing them that there's other adaptations and other abilities to innovate, not just inside their classroom, but inside the whole school as a whole, then they can be brought into the fold. Jesus loved everyone and sacrificed everything for the sake of humanity. For those who do not believe in him, he states in John 3:19 that the light has come into the world and the people love the darkness rather than the light. Basically, when you deal with these people who are resistant to change or innovation, this is something that Jesus constantly dealt with in his time here on earth. And so he always leaves the door open to those who want to come to him. Yet he clearly states that those who are stuck in the darkness will be judged. Just like pretty much any innovation that gets brought into any sort of system, if it's something that becomes part of the system, these people, the late majority and the laggards, if they don't basically adhere to it or don't adapt to it, then eventually they will be left behind and be judged, essentially. Um, Titus 2 7 and 8 states that we must show ourselves in all respects to be models of good works, and in our teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that when an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. This verse really fully and thoroughly explains the importance of leading a system that models Christ. By focusing on Him at the center of all we do, and by doing it in a way that models Him, we can lead as closely to the way Jesus did. Unlike Jesus, we aren't perfect. So it is our responsibility as believers, who are also educators, to not only lead our students to new innovations in technology and advancements in education, but also to point them in the one true goal of life, and that is the following the light of Christ.